The story begins during a dark period for the Israelites, who had been oppressed by the Philistines for 40 years. In the town of Zorah, there lived a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan. Manoah's wife was barren and had no children. One day, the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you will soon become pregnant and give birth to a son. Be careful not to drink wine or other fermented drinks, and avoid eating anything unclean. The boy will be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. His hair must never be cut. He will be the one to begin delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Excited and amazed, the woman ran to tell her husband about the angel's message. Manoah prayed to God, asking for the angel to return and give them more instructions on how to raise the child. God answered his prayer, and the angel returned. Manoah asked the angel, "What should be the rule that governs the boy's life and work once your words are fulfilled?" The angel repeated the instructions, telling Manoah that his wife must do all that had been commanded. Soon after, Manoah's wife gave birth to a son, and they named him Samson. As Samson grew, the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir within him while he was at Mahanaim, between Zorah and Eshtaol. As a young man, Samson went down to Timnah and saw a Philistine woman. He returned home and told his parents, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Get her for me as my wife." His parents were shocked and asked, "Is there no one among our people who you could marry? Why go to the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson insisted, "Get her for me. She is the right one for me." His parents didn't know that this was part of God's plan to create an occasion to confront the Philistines. On his way to Timnah, Samson encountered a young lion. The path was narrow, and suddenly, the lion charged at him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson, and with divine strength, he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as one might tear apart a young goat. He did not tell his parents about this. Later, when Samson returned to marry the woman, he went to check on the lion's carcass. Inside, he found a swarm of bees and honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate it as he walked. He also gave some to his parents, but did not tell them where it came from. At the wedding feast in Timnah, Samson proposed a riddle to his 30 Philistine companions. He said, "If you can solve my riddle within 7 days, I'll give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If not, you must give me the same." The riddle was, out of the eater, something to eat, out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days, they couldn't answer, so they pressured Samson's wife to get the answer from him. They threatened to burn her and her father's house down if she didn't. She cried to Samson, accusing him of not loving her. Finally, on the 7th day, Samson gave in and told her the answer. She in turn told the men. Before sunset on the 7th day, they answered Samson's riddle, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson replied, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and in his anger, Samson went to Ashkelon, killed 30 men, took their clothes, and gave them to those who had solved the riddle. He returned home, furious, and his wife was given to one of his companions. Later, during the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife, bringing a young goat. However, her father told him that he had given her to another man, offering her younger sister instead. Samson was enraged and said, "Now I have a right to get even with the Philistines." He caught 300 foxes, tied them tail to tail in pairs, and attached torches to each pair. He set the torches on fire and released the foxes into the Philistine fields, burning up their crops, vineyards, and olive groves. The Philistines retaliated by burning his wife and her father's house. Samson, in turn, swore vengeance, attacked them, and killed many. Samson then took refuge in a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines gathered to attack Judah, demanding Samson's capture. 3,000 men from Judah went to bind him and hand him over. When they arrived, Samson agreed to be bound, as long as they didn't kill him. They tied him with 2 new ropes and brought him to Lehi. As the Philistines approached, Samson's strength surged again. The ropes snapped, and he picked up a fresh jawbone of a donkey and struck down 1,000 men. Afterward, Samson, feeling thirsty, cried to God, and a spring appeared at Lehi, reviving him. Later, Samson went to Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. The people of Gaza laid in wait for him at the city gate, planning to kill him at dawn. But Samson arose in the middle of the night, tore the city gates from their posts, and carried them to the top of a hill facing Hebron, demonstrating his incredible strength. Some time later, Samson fell in love with Delilah, a woman in the valley of Sorek. The Philistine rulers bribed her to discover the secret of Samson's strength. After a series of attempts to deceive him, Samson finally revealed the truth: "No razor has ever been used on my head. I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, I will lose my strength." Delilah betrayed him, and the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza, where he was imprisoned and forced to grind grain. Over time, his hair began to grow back. The Philistine rulers held a great feast to celebrate their victory over Samson, and they called for him to entertain them. Standing between 2 pillars in the temple, Samson prayed to God for strength. He pushed against the pillars with all his might, collapsing the temple, killing himself and thousands of Philistines. Samson's final act was a greater victory than all his previous ones. His family later came to collect his body and buried him in the tomb of Manoah, his father. Samson had led Israel for 20 years. His life serves as a powerful reminder of God's ability to use even flawed individuals for his purposes, and the story highlights the importance of faith, the dangers of temptation, and the sovereignty of God's will.
If you enjoyed the story and found it inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future Bible stories. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful biblical narratives to life. Thank you, and God bless.